Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Hussein Dami. I am the UK Sales and Business Development Director for Related Digital. Firstly, I would like to thank you for taking the time to be with us today, and I hope you, your friends and family are safe and sound. In today's webinar, we will have 3 sections. Each will take around 15 minutes. We will firstly start with Cathal O'Sullivan. He's a former small business owner. Cathal now works at Google, acting as an advisor to the UK top agencies like AdPeople. Cathal will be introducing you to Google's recent search trends and best practices. Secondly, we will have Cameron Smith. He is the head of e-commerce at AdPeople. Cameron oversees the success of 250 e-retailers across Facebook, Amazon, and Google Ads. AdPeople specializes in delivering scalable digital marketing to SMEs. So today will give us a sneak peek into enabling growth in your Google Ads account. And finally, I'll take over to introduce Related Digital and how we help e-commerce and retail clients with their customer retention and customer interaction. Now I will mute myself and I hand the mic to Cathal to start his presentation. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everyone. As Hussein said, my name is Cathal O'Sullivan. I appreciate that's a very difficult Irish name. Where I often say that it's like alcohol without the al, so Cathal. If anyone wants to ask questions, don't feel uncomfortable using the name. So, Hussein, can you see the first slide on your side?
How about Great. Now? Can you? Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yes, I can. And yeah, no, that's fantastic. So first of all, I'd like to start today by just saying that I hope everyone is doing okay. I appreciate that this has been a very stressful few months for an awful lot of people. And also to thank you for being here. I think it says a lot about you that you've taken time out of busy days to hopefully learn something new with us today. So I really appreciate the time that you've given. I'd also really like to thank the people, Hussein and the team at Related Digital for having me here today, and particularly AdPeople, who've been incredible partners to Google for many years now. So I would definitely encourage anyone that's looking to help grow their existing client base to get in touch with AdPeople. We only work with a very small number of partners in any country, and we work with AdPeople because they've consistently been able to do very good things for their clients with our products. So let's start off today. If we can move on to the next slide. So we've got a couple of slides here focused on just the opportunity that exists right now. So with all that's been going on with the pandemic, we've seen a huge surge, unsurprisingly, in e-commerce. So we can see that as a trend there. And moving on to the next slide, we can see that it's been what's driving retail growth. So this writing, unfortunately, is way too hard to see, but you can see on the far left, it's yard and patio furniture. That's been a real surge in e-commerce over the last while as people are trying to make use of the spaces that they have available to them. And then the only few things that haven't grown in e-commerce, things like formal wear, because formal occasions aren't really happening. So we can move on to the next slide. What's interesting here is that this trend has followed suit even after the shops are reopening. So it seems like the gain in traction that people buying things online isn't just because of the pandemic. It seems like it's a more permanent shift. And moving on to the next slide, we can see that this is across all age groups. So there's generally a bit of a myth that if you're trying to target older people, that maybe online isn't the best solution for you. Whereas we're seeing there actually a surge in what I've seen referred to online as the grey revolution, with older people that wouldn't traditionally have bought online all making that shift and making it permanently, which obviously has implications for how we position ourselves online and the user experiences that we need to offer. So moving on. Yeah, so we can see that online research is also going right up, potentially because people have more time on their hands, or maybe they're more sensitive about their finances. People are doing an awful lot more research, which shows that it's a great opportunity to try and influence people's decisions through this research. If we move on, we can see that most of this is happening with the older age groups. So this is a great time to potentially rethink your strategy if this is an age group that you're targeting, now that these people are consistently moving online. we move on. So one thing that we need to remember is that obviously if we're going to spend time or money trying to send people to our website, one of the things that we need to make sure is obviously that our website is fulfilling the function that we want it to, which is to convert people into paying clients. So it's just that we'll work now as a very just like a simple reminder of some of the best practices, especially now in these uncertain times. So if we move on, this is some of the absolute basics. It's just a good time to come back and think about this, because I think a lot of times our landing pages get more complicated over time, and we sometimes need to do a quick audit to make sure that we're still focusing people's attentions on the right things. So some of the basics: make sure you have your value proposition front and center, make sure each landing page has a single goal, make sure you have a clear call to action, and try and avoid distractions. So if we move on to the next page, we're seeing some more specific information when it comes to behavior during the COVID times. We're seeing that it's very important to add a note to let customers know that you're here to help. So people have concerns about buying things online. They're not sure if they're going to be able to deliver things on time. They're not sure about stock levels, and we need to be upfront with that information, because what we're seeing is that people are clicking on ads and coming onto pages, but if you don't make it very clear that your product, if you don't proactively make it clear that your product or service is available right now, people will go and they'll choose an alternative where they do make that clear. Okay, so we move on to the next page. This also is true of customer service, right? So we know that a lot of companies right now are struggling in terms of customer service because people are trying to work from home or other things aren't working. And this again is a really important part of the customer experience. And it's very important to be upfront if there are delays or other things when it comes to shipping or your response times or other things. So research shows consistently that we're very happy to wait a longer time if those expectations are made clear upfront. Whereas if they're not made clear upfront, even if it happens eventually in a shorter time, people won't appreciate it as much because they didn't know in advance how long things were going to take. So again, if your customer support or your fulfillment or your logistics have changed, make sure that you're proactively saying that, because as long as you're setting the right expectations, people will understand and appreciate that. So if we move on, we also have a huge amount more resources that we can share with you. So there's an awful lot more. Google.com/COVID-19 is one of the main things that I hope that you can take from this today, because there's a bunch of more information on there that will help make sure that your UX is still up to date. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide. So one of the things that I think is most important, like as marketers, we're in the business of identifying, serving, and solving customer needs. So faced with increasing demand and higher expectations, we need to help consumers find what matters to them at any given moment. So when you understand how your customers are searching and what they're searching for, you gain a greater understanding of what matters to them. So each week, myself and ad people are analyzing search data from Google Trends and other tools to better understand what's top of mind during these times. So we've bucketed these insights into 5 macro level themes, from how consumers are feeling to how they're learning. So if we move on to the next slide. Right, so these are themes that are true right now. So obviously a lot has happened, and the lockdown and the COVID times have affected things for a longer extended period of time. But these are things that are up to date as of last week. These are the things that are on consumers' minds, and it's important for us to recognize that, because if we can understand, as I said, for what people are interested in and how people are feeling, we can better align our services and products and our positioning of those things to match up and be able to take a greater advantage of this. So in terms of what people know, let's start there. Yes, so people are spending time and money in new ways. And as a result, because people are under pressure financially, people are doing an awful lot more research. So if you skip on to the next slide, you can see that there's an awful lot of interest for things like trying to understand the difference between gross and net, standing orders and direct debit. People are trying to cut out jargon and understand. And this is a great opportunity for us as marketers, because if we know that people are looking for help with these things, we can think about what kind of jargon or what kind of content would be helpful for us to provide proactively to our customers. So if we're working in for example, in a regulation heavy industry, or we're providing personal loans or something like that, we know if people are looking for credible guidance on their purchases, we can start to do jargon busting content posts and other things that we know that people are really looking for at the moment. And if we skip on to the next slide, in terms of what people are knowing, this hasn't changed throughout from the start of the pandemic. People are seeking timely and accurate information from trusted sources. So this is something that's been really, really important. And we're seeing that people are searching for more information about products and services. We saw earlier that people are spending a lot more time researching their products beforehand, and that we're constantly seeing this in the search trends, that people are really, it's really important for brands to show that they're open and that they're there to help. So if you have a physical location, make sure that it's very clear when you're open. If things have been affected by COVID, make sure that you're putting it up front, how it's been affected and what is available now. So we've seen that with a rise in interest in incredible sources across the board, one of which is YouTube. Actually, there's about half of people that purchase things online turn to YouTube to look for more content about that product before making the purchase. So if we skip on to the next slide, in terms of how people make a living, obviously there's been a huge change to people's jobs in many cases and their finances. And if we skip on to the next slide, we can see that one of the most deeply impacted industries was the service industry. And I put this here as just kind of a note of optimism that we're kind of slowly seeing a rise in interest and availability of service jobs as things start to reopen, which is good to see. And moving on to the next slide, one of the other things that we've seen throughout the lockdown is that people have a growing interest in it. If you go back one, in a growing interest, go back 2 slides. Yeah, exactly. In sustainability, people, one of the most searched for things was how to grow. People taking huge interest in gardening, growing their own food, living sustainably. I thought this was an interesting one, that farms near me was a rapidly rising search trend as people look to get not just healthier food, but also increasingly wanting to work in more sustainable fields like farming. So if we move on to the next one about how people are feeling, this is really, people are feeling stressed and anxious, to be perfectly honest, and there's a huge surge in interest in well-being as a result. So people are looking for ways to enjoy themselves in ways that are generally a little bit slower. We saw a huge rise in interest in things like jigsaws and meditation and yoga and other things. So if we move on to the next slide, we can see something that represents that quite well is a greater interest in camping equipment. Obviously, with less people maybe traveling internationally, this is something that we've seen a surge in. But basically, consumers are searching for outdoor activities, healthy foods, and stress relief techniques. And the other side of that is, if we're on the next slide, is that we've also seen, how to relieve as a search term, people, how to relieve stress, how to relieve chest tightness, which is a symptom of anxiety, how to relieve bloating and other things. We've seen that across the world. So if we move on to the next slide, we can also see that people, again, focused on well-being, also trying to declutter their lives. People are trying to make the most of the space that they have available, probably spending a lot more time in that space, so I guess that makes sense. So early on, we saw a huge amount of interest in, how to paint and how to do DIY jobs. And we've seen another trend, which is the decluttering trend, with a rise in interest in the availability of charity shops. So if we move on to how people learn. So like yourselves being here today, we've seen an awful lot of people that maybe are trying to make up some time, some of the time that they have now with learning new skills. So if we move on to the next slide, a lot of people are turning to YouTube to do that. So we've seen a huge increase in number of spoken languages. On the next slide, we've seen a huge interest in learning new skills. So for beginners or people putting step by step. And then on the next slide, we've seen how-to videos are like searching for at home. So I think one of the real winners of all of this that's happened is Yoga with Adrian, who's helping people stay fit and relax at home. A huge YouTube star of the pandemic. Move on to the next one. We can see again, obviously right now, in terms of very literal how people are learning, there's obviously a lot of interest in back to school shopping in the UK, given that's one of the next milestones. So if we go on to the next slide, it's important, right, in giving our understanding of what consumers want and what our consumers are looking for. it's then we can then kind of start to see how that's been applied well by other marketing brands to make it a little bit more practical for ourselves. So important to get the tone right? We've all seen the celebrity videos where they were very tone deaf, where they were saying we're all in this together from their giant mansions and other things that they got a lot of backlash for. And we can skip through all of the other ones, the other builds here. So if we keep building there, Hussein. Yeah, keep going. So the other thing is that we can give customers a break where possible, right? We know that they're stressed, we know that they're worried about finances. Obviously, these are huge examples from giant companies that have huge resources to be able to do so, but we often have our own way of being able to do something similar, whether that's through more generous payment plans, or maybe reducing the costs of delivery, or some other angle to help give customers a break. We're seeing some companies have to shift their entire business model. So Disney maybe skipping the cinemas, directing things online, restaurants and cafes moving to drive-through only. One of the more interesting examples is I know someone that has an events company, and they've shifted their ability to create stages and other things, which obviously events have been decimated. They're now using those same skills to build working from home desks and chairs, working from home office equipment, because that's an area that's been surging over the last while. Brands are trying to show that they're doing the right thing. So whether that's making articles available for free in the New York Times because people are looking for credible guidance, or shifting the production to things that are helpful with the pandemic, we're seeing that people are really appreciating it, and they've said consistently that they will continue to use brands on the other end of this based on how they treated people during the pandemic. Lastly, being helpful. If you have expertise in a specific area, maybe there's some content you can write that will help people in the moment. So we're seeing two good examples there. And lastly, we can use, if we go skip, and we can add in all the bills there. So what's up is a really useful tool that I'll direct all of you to, which is rising retail categories. So if you Google rising retail categories, you'll find a tool where you can flick between different countries and see, compared to this week over last week, or this month over last month, what is really up in terms of product interest. So this is a really useful tool to help understand how people are feeling and what's going on in a different region. So for example, in the UK last week, we can see, compared to what was up the month before, we can see that there's an awful lot of interest in some of the things that we talked about earlier. So one prominent thing is obviously that there was unseasonal weather in the UK. So we're seeing a lot of interest in trying to keep cool, but we can also see some of the themes that we saw earlier. So for example, kayaks being massively up is an interesting one, because it kind of goes along with the camping and people trying to live healthy outdoor activities. We can see medical equipment up, because again, people are taking more of an interest in their health. Backpacks massively up, and lunch boxes massively up, because people are heading back to school. And desk and pedestal fans, because obviously people are now working from home. So I would say that this is a really useful exercise for you to do in your own time, and you can do that through the Google tools. We did this through Google Trends and also through the Rising Retail Categories tool. And I think that this is a great kind of example of the kind of reason that it can be helpful to work with an agency or a partner like AdPeople, because this is the kind of thing that they're supplying to their clients on a weekly basis, and can really help you guide in your own marketing decisions. So thank you very much for today. I'll hand you over to Cameron for the next part.
Perfect, thanks, Cathal. Yes, so where Cathal was talking about the macro side of what's happening in the wider environment, what I wanted to do is take and guide you through what we're looking at for our individual clients, how we should be generically structuring an account, and then how we then adapt that per client and per performance targets and KPIs. And then looking at how COVID has had an impact and how that translates into the strategy that we've been using. So if we can just go to the next slide, and then the one after that, that's just a title. So when we were first looking into this, and when we first had the lockdown, we weren't expecting the sort of performance, or I don't think anyone could really have predicted the sort of performance that we'd be looking at for, especially for May and June. I think it took a bit of time for people to adapt and recover. Remember, there was lots of panic shopping in April as well. But once that settled down, we saw a very strong spike through a lot of the industries that we work with. So one of definitely ones that were growing was homewares, sofa clients, furniture, people wanting to do a lot of DIY, and that trend has really continued. Flowing was tending to be lighting. Now, it was an unusual time for lighting to have a boom as well. Usually with our lighting clients, we see a bit of a dip during summer because everyone's focusing on their outside, where and external doing up their garden, things like that. So gardening tools did very, very well during that period as well. But we would expect lighting to have their bulk of sales going into Q3, going into Q4. So that was an interesting one. So being a really strong 2020 for lighting. And then ones that are slowing that particularly aren't fantastic unless you've really nailed the website anyway, to be using Google Ads to launch these sorts of things like generic clothing, trying to start your own clothing brand, building a website, then going straight for PPC might not be the best option, but doing things like YouTube campaigns, social media, those are very good solutions as well. But starting to pick up hampers, party supplies as well. But it's about how clients also adapted this. We did have one party supplies client who ended up, instead of just doing one big bulk delivery of, let's say, 20 party hats and 20 things for a party of 20, one person could order and then send 20 different things out. So that was really catering for the Zoom party meetings that were really popular at the start of lockdown. But across all of this, the fundamental question is, are you maintaining a stable return on ad spend? Are you maintaining a ROAS that is making you profit and is there for sustainability? If we can go on to the next slide, the two things, that is the first question that we ask. So is ROAS target being achieved? If so, push more into your higher funnel traffic, make sure that your converting campaigns aren't limited by budget and expanding on that. Make sure that your star product lines are broken out into new campaigns and giving their own budget and enabled for growth. It's all about increasing budgets in the right places. It's not to get growth out of a Google Ads account. It's not about starting with 2 campaigns and then just putting more and more budget into those campaigns. It's about breaking it out, and that's sort of what we come on to a little bit later in the presentation. And then developing remarketing campaigns through display and video as well. So really building on that brand awareness, integrating that into what you're doing with organic and social is very, very strong. If your target ROAS is not being achieved, then we've got some troubleshooting to do. Make sure that your feed quality of your shopping feed is strong, and there's lots of simple guides online, and if you get in touch, then I can send you a few simple guides on improving your feed quality through a supplementary feed to make sure that Google Shopping has enough data to show and match keywords to your products. Check your quality score on your text ads and optimize landing pages. Google's really intuitive with the information that you get access to, especially with text campaigns, and analyzing your quality score. So that's made up of landing page quality, ad relevance, and expected click-through rate. So that's why we always want to start with a little bit higher cost per click as well to get that click-through rate up. But it will tell you whether you're above average, below average, or average. The ones that you're below average are just an easy way to work on. You find that in the Google Ads platform. Pullback bids on lower margin or lower AOV products. Usually, unless there's a significant website issue or a significant issue across all of the products, you will still have some level of success with a few product ranges, and it would just be other products that are pulling your averages down. So trimming it back, not focusing on pushing everything. The thing that I always tell clients is we need to be data and demand led. So we need to push the products that the consumers are clicking on and buying, not just trying to push all of your stock and trying to push stock ranges that aren't getting traction through Google Ads, because that's just going to be an inefficient spend. And that was let the data guide you and make sure you're price competitive. This is the number one thing we do for clients straight away, is if there's some troubleshooting to be done, making sure that there's nothing broken on the website and making sure they're price competitive are usually the two things that are holding them back. Because the internet it's different. If you're just walking into a shop, you can either buy it from that shop or you don't get the product. With the internet and with Google Shopping, they're showing an entire catalog of options to these clients that are just at their fingertips. So making sure your product offering is on point is definitely important. If we just move on to the next slide. And this just talks a bit more about the mindset that we have ad people as well. There are some agencies that will just try and constantly, incrementally and very slowly build up return on investment for the same budget. So one month you spend £1,000 in a month and you make £5,000 back. The next month they might try and spend the £1,000 a month and make £5,100 back, and then try to grow it that way. That's not the mindset that really you're going to see the growth that SMEs should be expecting from using Google Ads and from investing in PPC. So that's the bad mindset, thinking, right, I'm going into this year, I'm going into this period, I've got £40,000 to spend this year, that's £3,000 a month, let's just put that, and at the end of the year, I'm going to review what went well. Where what you really should be doing, and or how any agency really should be helping you, is understanding a ROAS target. So if you can compare this to your break-even point, if you break even at 50, if you've got 50% gross profit margin, you break even at 200% return on ad spend. For every pound you spend, you need to get £2 back. Right, great. So the target would then be looking at 400 or 500%. Yeah, happy to go on to the next slide. And this just shows those two mindsets and how they can actually generate you more revenue, more profit. So the mindset one, ROAS maximization, increase stable media spend. We'll try and maintain an average of 750% a quarter. Black Friday is going to be up, summer might be down, but that's the general insight, which isn't dynamic and isn't really producing actual growth. Where if you're looking at a sustainable growth model, now what I've done here is lowered the ROAS from 750% to 600% every time we increase the budget by £2,500 a quarter. That is a dramatic decrease as well. We wouldn't expect that level of decrease if we could maintain 750%. So that would be more stable, but I wanted to show that. And if you have a look at that the table there, shows that your revenue with your first one makes you 300,000. The revenue with your second one, the sustainable growth model, makes you 365,000 in revenue. Yes, your media spend up. Yes, your cost of goods up, but your profit is also up. And for SMEs, there's a lot of value in having more clients coming in as well, more customers that you then integrate your email marketing into, and your social media. They get captured by remarketing as well. So you're building up a loyal customer base. There's been so many times when I've spoken to clients and they say, we absolutely can't do, we need cost of goods, we need advertising costs to be 5% of whatever we sell. And if we're under that, then we're not making money. But they have a 50% gross profit margin. So that is just a very short-sighted, non-growth way of looking at it. And I think it's just because they wanted to buy a new car, to be honest. But let's move on to the next slide. And this is what we've talked about, how that actually translates into a Google Ads campaign and Google Ads account. So if we move on, smart shopping. This smart shopping came out in early 2018. Cathal was probably going to correct me there, but around that time. And since then, it's really developed. So this is one of Google's Google AI really important bit of kit. And what we've seen is 22% increase in return on investment, 10% plus reduction in cost per clicks, and site quality increases as well, because you're getting more people coming back to the site. So what smart shopping does is it takes your normal shopping campaign and it integrates remarketing into it. So what that means is it's not just your shopping ads showing on the generic search pages or the search results pages on Google, but it also integrates display remarketing, YouTube remarketing, and Gmail remarketing all into this one campaign. So it's very effective. At first, we start these with clients to usually just do one big one, see how that works. And then as you get through these different levels, that is when you're breaking out campaigns to give them their own budget. Let's say you've got 10 product ranges, 2 do really well within this smart shopping campaign, right? Let's be moving out, instead of moving out the top ones, you will want to move out the bottom ones, because that will allow that smart shopping campaign that's already built up the data to continue to serve really well. Because there's always with shopping campaigns, there's a learning period. And then if you really want to go the expert level, it's about integrating text campaigns and making sure that you're filling out your funnel. I could probably talk for about 2 hours about funnels, but I'm not going to do that. But there's lots of good advice online, and lots of good advice, articles that we share with clients and things like that on funneling. Next slide. So we've got smart shopping to automate the shopping campaigns and the product feed side of it. Now with text campaign automation, there's a little bit of a difference. You get a few more options. And these are just a few examples of the options that Google can deliver. So if you're going for maximize conversions, that's a good one if you've got all of your products at the same price, or you've just got 3 or 4 products, because that is just going to be driving you as many conversions as possible and drive a higher volume of sales. If you've got 5,000 products, what maximize conversions could possibly do is just drive conversions for your lower value products, because they're seeing a sale for your £50 product the same value as your sort of £2,000 product. So there's a difference there. But that again works very, very well if you're breaking out your campaigns and getting very, very micro targeting on what you want to target. And the same with target CPA, increase in conversions. All of these have increases in conversions compared to manual CPC and max clicks and all of that. So definitely be using these sorts of things. Target CPA, get similar problems to maximize conversion. If you've got a big range, then it might only just try and be pushing the smaller ones. That's where you break it out. Target ROAS, this is the one that we use for most of our text campaigns, especially with the clients that have a larger range or the more generic text campaigns for sure. You get a larger increase in conversions and you're maintaining a ROAS. So you're saying to Google, here's £50 a day, go make sure that I can maintain 300%. If that starts to perform and it starts saying, right, we've got a bit more budget to play with, then you can always push that. Next slide. So I wanted to take you into just a quick case study of what we've done for one of our clients. So this is actually a client that I managed as well when they came on board. So they came on board Q2 of 2019, and they were a big furniture client. I think they were spending around sort of £5,000 a month on Google Ads already, but we wanted to see that grow because we knew their product was right, because they were already selling lots through Amazon, making sort of £200,000 a month through Amazon, similar amounts through eBay, but their website revenue was just flatlining at £30,000 to £40,000 a month, and they weren't sure why. So phase 1, optimizing the product feed, definitely very important part, making sure that analyzing what their current Google Ads campaigns were and breaking that out and being strategic with that. And then setting up different text campaigns to make sure it funnels in. If you actually want to go to the next slide, it breaks down the campaigns that we built, or just a sample of the campaigns that we built. So it's sort of an inverse strategy with shopping campaigns and text campaigns. With smart shopping, you want to go very broad at the start and then filter downwards. With text campaigns, you want to go very niche at the start and focus on the very specific keywords, and then filter outwards and get broader. And that's because there's a click on shopping on a shopping product, there's more of an intent to buy than there is on a text campaign. So you want to be specific with that. And then the next slide just shows the results that that strategy has delivered. And this is including a spike in demand because of COVID. But this just compares May 1st to July 31st, 2020 to 2019. And we know that they would have seen a generic really increase anyway of somewhere between 100 and 150%, because their direct went up 100%, organic went up 150%. But what we did with paid is, by building out that strategy, it has meant that we have a much more sustainable way to be increasing the budgets. And so when we want to enable growth, and when they say, right, we know we can spend £5,000 and make back £40,000, how do we spend £10,000 and make back £80,000? How do we spend £20,000 and make back £160,000? And it's about maintaining that ROAS as you grow. So the results here just speak for themselves, but just pop back a second. So May last year, from that time period over 3 months, they spent £10,000 over 3 months. There were only 210 sales, and that made them £40,000. Over this period, we've spent £40,000 on ads, but generated £351,000 in revenue. So their ROAS has gone up, their spend has gone up, and lots of good stuff going on here. We've also got a case study on Google, but I'm sure Hussein will share the slides and you can access that through that link. Next slide. This is just a few quick tips. So metrics that we would look at and metrics that you should definitely know about. The basic ones are search impression share, making sure you're understanding what that means. If it's limited by budget and you're happy with ROAS, get that budget going. I mean, that's a really good sign. And look over a larger time period as well. If you've already got a smaller budget, look over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, even if you're on quite a micro budget. If your impression share is limited by rank, improve quality score, look at your feed quality, and if your ROAS is okay, you might want to just boost up those bids a little bit and see how that works. Don't go too crazy with increasing budgets. Don't think, oh, my campaign's getting me 1,000% on £10 a day, I'm going to stick that to £200 a day and force Google to try and spend that. That's going to cause a big jolt, and this is where the sustainable growth comes in. And don't change bidding strategies too regularly. I mean, and don't set them extreme targets. Find out what they can do and slowly increase them up. And if we just go to the next slide, then that is some details for our partnerships department, where you can get a free consultation. Everything we do, we've got products for newer e-commerce businesses, for older e-commerce businesses, or more sustained ones. And we offer trials as well to make sure that we're not just locking you into any contracts or anything like that. It's absolutely not what we're about. But yeah, Hussein, that's all my parts, and I'll take any questions at the end if that's all right.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Cathal, for taking the time and doing those slides. They were very insightful. I'm sure a lot of the attendees agree with that. So it's my turn to present to you Related Digital. So firstly, we started with Cathal. He gave us a good macro overview in terms of Google Trends. And then we had Cam introducing us to ad people and how things are working there. And then we have this Related Digital, teaching you more or showing you how we do we work with our clients, e-commerce and retail clients, and help them with customer retention. Today's agenda will be just introducing you to the company, showing you some of our products and services, showing you some of our segmentation methods, the automation part of our platform, and giving you a real example, client use cases of how we help them in more details. Now, before we start, I just wanted to ask you a quick question. Let me just pull this up here. There we go. Just wanted to ask you if you can see the screen here. As a company, do you think you're in touch with your current client base? Because this is what we focus on. So I wanted to get a feel of how you see that or how you work on that. Yes, and not so much. Yes, there is room for improvement. Absolutely, it is a priority for us. Not so much. That's the 60% we have here. Okay, I'm just waiting for more answers. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, perfect. That's great. Now going back to the slides, a quick introduction to Related Digital. We are a software provider. We offer an omni-channel marketing automation solution. The key benefit is to enable clients to use all marketing channels at the same time and see all results in one form, in one single platform. In a nutshell, we exist to create intelligent engagement between brands and their audience. We operate in different sectors, as you can see here, finance, technology, tourism, but the main ones we operate in is the e-commerce and retail sector. As you can see here, we work with eBay, IKEA, L'Oreal, and many others. We, I think it's worth mentioning, I think I missed that, we have more than 400 million customers interaction daily, more than 2,000 clients worldwide. But the most important thing, we come with experience. We've been in the market for more than 20 years. Moving on to the products range, as you can see here, those 6 kind of columns, the customer data platform, web targeting, etc. Each one of those columns is a different product we have, or a different module. They either can be bought as a full suite, all one go, or it can be purchased or operating in separately. To start with, the customer data platform, I will refer to that as CDP from now on. But the CDP integrates, unifies, and consolidates customers' database that come from multiple online and offline channels, coming from different social media, Excel sheets, different websites, and also offline. So when people visit, our customers visit your stores, we collect all this data and have it in one place, unify it and integrate it into the customer data platform. So the main benefit is really allow marketers to retarget those channels back, like Google, Instagram, SMS, social media separately, or all in one go. There are also other benefits to CDP. It helps with avoiding data silos, because all customers' data will be in one single platform. Also naturally supports GDPR and other privacy regulations, because can only collect first-party data, so there is another burden that you don't need to think about when it comes to using or thinking of using CDP. And finally, it enables marketers to collect customer behavior data and consolidate it into what's called customer profiles. This results in having clean data, which helps marketing teams to select attributes, user behavior, in order to build out a good and strong segment. We have a few segmentation methods, as I mentioned earlier. We'll come to that a little bit later. Second product we have is the web targeting. This is very straightforward. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It helps retail and e-commerce companies and other sectors, obviously, as well, with targeting the audience through web notifications, perhaps maybe regarding a brand top seller product, maybe a complementary product, or simply just to raise awareness of categories that have not been visited before by a customer. The third product is the email marketing. This includes bulk emailing, means sending millions of emails in one go, and it also includes personalized segmented emails, which allows companies to email specific customers regarding, for example, abandoned carts, maybe when they last time visited the website, or maybe new item arrival, or a price drop, or anything else really. Fourthly, we have the product recommendation. This works based on customers' research, maybe views and other data factors. The system suggests to those customers which products are similar or close to what they're looking for. The product recommendation reaches the customers either via email or a web notification. It also can reach the customers via a mobile push. That's part of the mobile marketing, our fifth product. The mobile marketing operators have that feature, but also have other feature, the geofencing services. And this is where, if your customers are physically near one of your stores, they receive a notification suggesting to them maybe a store visit, or maybe come and try a new item since you're in the area, etc. And finally, we have the Customer Journey Manager. That's the sixth product. This is another very important module, and a lot of our clients using it. It helps with automate the customer's journey, and that's without much interference from you or the marketers. This process helps, obviously saves a lot of time and cost, and we'll have a real example on that a little later. Finally, we have a few other services included in the cost of when you buy, say, a module or more than one module. There is some included, and some other services are extra considered. So the project management, this is included. This is the support client gets during the implementation period. We have the account management. This is more like a consultancy service. So we have this team meet the clients regularly to discuss the overall marketing overview or marketing strategy, new trends, and marketing scenarios generally, how to approach the market, which channel is the best to approach the market, and when to approach the market. All these things that we discussed with those teams, since they are very expert in those sectors we operate in. And we have a sub team under this team, that's the account executive. So this team basically help execute the strategies, well, they support you to execute those strategies on the platform, but if you have no time, they will be doing that on your behalf. So you really don't have to lift a finger to execute the strategies. All you need to do is discuss it with the team, and they do the rest of it on your behalf. The technical support, that's very clear. This is the support you get when you have issues with the platform. And finally, the extra services we have is the HTML and design services. This is to help with obviously designing landing pages, maybe supporting the marketing campaigns, etc. Moving on to the to the next page, we have the segmentation methods. So as I mentioned, we have the behavioral segmentation, demographic, rule-based, and ERFM. Those segment methods work either solely or combined. So let me give you an example, maybe on the combined one. Let's assume we have an anonymous potential customer who is viewing a baby pram and then read an email about the latest female fashion shoes, and then purchased a baby product, maybe a toy for 6 months old, or and maybe a food, baby food like a puree or something. All this behavior would contribute towards categorizing this potential customer demography as a new mother. And then you'll be reaching out to them accordingly. It's very interesting, and everything is will be on the platform. So it's very straightforward on the platform. For the rule-based segmentation method, it is a way to build your own segment by putting together a number of rules. For example, say segment the current client base with the people who made a purchase of maybe 70 or 80 pounds or more. Segment them or resegment them with filtering down to the customers who visited the website in the last maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And also maybe segment them with people who have spent more than 10 minutes on the website. Save that segment and again reach out to them accordingly. Finally, the RFM segment, I would like to show you how it looks like. I think it will make more sense like this. So the RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. I'm sure a lot of us know that. In this example, you can see how many people in each category at risk or loyal, so you can plan your next move. So we can see in this example, you see high potential, VIP. You can see the facts of each category, the count of those people or customers, revenue, and revenue per visitor as well. The RFM is a global segment. It's usually 8 categories, as you can see here. However, Related Digital is one of the few companies that in the customer retention space that adds the engagement feature to the equation, which results in targeting not only the existing customers, but also potential customers when they visit the website to help with creating more and more accurate segments or audience. So that's very interesting. Moving on to the automation part of it, that's the Customer Journey Manager. That's the 6th product that we mentioned earlier. This tool automates how you want to communicate with your customers. And this is just, this is fully customizable. And as you can see here, this is an example of one of our clients. It's called VisiStore. So they asked us to build an automation tool for them. That is, for example, if you look here, we have a new visitor, whether they came to the store or maybe they registered their information on the website. Once they do that, they receive a welcoming email. Let's assume they didn't read the email, so it went to the X here. If they didn't read the email, automatically the system will send them a reminder push, whether it's a web notification or SMS, whatever you want it to be. Let's assume they did read the email. We can retarget the new client by sending them maybe a discount offer, or maybe a complimentary product to the first product they purchased when they visit the website. And that's how it works. And once they reach out to that stage where either they purchase the product, that means the cycle is finished, the automated cycle is finished, or if they didn't reach the product, the system will assume that this client or this information is not wrong and give you the option whether to keep it in the system or delete it. So this is just an example on how to do that. And again, this is fully customizable. You don't have to follow this particular example. Moving on to more of our client base. As you can see here, we have the first one, the growth scenario. Again, Visit Store. This is more of a social proof. As you can see here, 25 people viewing this, 35 people are recent purchase, and 45 added it to the cart. This creates more of an urgency for customers to buy, which would be, would help the growth, the sales growth, basically. We have next to it the personal web recommendation. This shows the product customers are interested in, and it's usually very accurate because this is based on historical data. And this is one of our selling points. We keep the historical data, and very few of our competitors do that. We keep those historical data on the platform for about 3 years. So if you think about it, those recommendations are almost very, very accurate for our clients or the customers. We also have the behavioral pop-ups. Under that, we have this is based on customers' research, and it's similar. It's also similar to the product recommendations. So I'll give you more example on that. And finally, we have the reporting side of it, and this is where the platform provides you with detailed analytics and insight on which marketing channel is more successful than others. So let's assume you have the SMS, web, mobile, email, and social media, and so this will show you which one is more successful. If you take this example in particular, you can see for the email reporting is it can show you the open rate and also click to open rate. Moving on to the next slide, we have stories here on the left-hand side. It's similar to Instagram, but that's this is a view of a website on a mobile. This could be a general stories decided by, say, your marketing team, or maybe a personalized story for each customer, depending on their page views and behavior. We also have the gamification part of it next to it on the top. This for more interaction with the customers and make the experience more fun on the website. And we have the geofencing next to it on the right-hand side. We did discuss that earlier, but that's how it looks like. And finally, we have the birthday pop-ups, and this is where your customers get a web notification when it's their birthday, saying happy birthday, or maybe there's a discount for your birthday, or come and enjoy 20 pounds of goods, etc. So that brings me to the final slide on my presentation. So in conclusion, it is very important for any business to choose the right customer retention partner and solution that can help with transforming the omni-channel complexity into a competitive advantage. That would be done through by bringing all data together from all different sources, as we mentioned earlier, adding them all to the CDP, for example, and allowing you to know all that is knowable about your customers and reach out to them accordingly. Because the bottom line, if you do this right, you're aiming to convert your current customers to loyal ones, which according to studies increase revenue by more than 23% over the average customer. That brings me to the end of this presentation. I think I got a few questions here. Let me see. Okay, I've got this question. How can you be confident that the data collected is accurate? That's a good question. So as I mentioned earlier, by gathering first-party data directly from your customers, site visit, customers' behavioral, social media followers, etc., subscribers, obviously, this would be the very best type of data to collect and use, because it comes straight from the audience, straight from the source. You cannot go wrong with it unless they give you wrong information, which the system would automatically get rid of. So that would be the answer to that. Any other questions I think we are running out of time. We have a couple of more minutes, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank Cathal from Google and Cameron from AdPeople for their contribution in making this a success. And we're looking forward to working with you on the new content in future webinars. And please, I would like to also thank the audience for being here with us. It's been great and a great turnout. I'm very happy with it. So I would like to wish you a very good day and see you in our next webinar hopefully soon. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Perfect. Thanks, Hussein.